Just in time. 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 Just in time.
Hey guys, I hope your league start is going well. I have been having a lot of fun with this new league mechanic. It's confusing, but it's also very dynamic and interesting. And I chose to play with Armageddon brand, sort of almost Ignite based, but not really focusing completely on Ignites. It's not the fastest build, not the highest DPS. It has decent clear speed and also very, I guess, safe single target DPS. It feels almost like playing with totems. You place the thing and then it does the damage, except it cannot die like totems. Of course, some may not agree that it's perfect, but it's perfect in a sense that it's very cheap, and at least for me at the start of the league, I'm not concerned about the endgame content because I know I'm gonna be struggling with maps and of course getting all the trials done on the first character. So my goal was just to play some build, do some farming, progress through the maps a bit, and then start a new build after I acquire more currency. But that is not to say that the single target and endgame content cannot be done with Armageddon brand. And this is just a quick look into this build, not really rushing, taking it slow, exploring the new league mechanics, but there are a couple racers who are using Armageddon brand, including Rise QT, so Armageddon brand definitely has a lot of potential, and it does have some crazy synergy with crit totem builds, because with just 3 passive nodes you can get 120 critical strike multiplier if you are using brands with totems. Also, you could link it with cast when damage taken, or use it instead of Orb of Storms to proc elemental overload, course on hit of course, but here's the main catch with brands. Even if you could have many of them, like 4 or 5 brands, by default you can only attach one brand to an enemy. So if there is only one enemy and no other enemies around, only one brand would deal damage to that enemy. You can take Runebinder node on the passive skill tree to be able to attach 2 brands on one enemy, and maybe there will be, or maybe there are, some uniques or some mods which could increase that. Maybe Helmet Enchantment, which actually would be very OP. So what I'm trying to say is having many brands doesn't really benefit against single target, and recasting them fast also doesn't benefit them all that much. So I'm very confused why it's so synergized with totems, because totems would just keep recasting them non-stop, and that doesn't really increase the DPS at all. The cast speed however does increase the DPS of brands. But on this specific build I'm not really focusing on cast speed and not really focusing on getting all the brand nodes. Ignite does a really good job at clearing enemies and still adding decent amount of DPS against single target. But for now I'm only using Nycta's Lantern Scepter for my brand, so it's basically a pseudo mini 6-link, and I am level 80, so this scepter carried me all the way to level 80. But at this time I definitely need to upgrade it. The new Martyr of Innocence looks pretty good, also Searing Touch could be nice, or maybe just Doriana's Catalyst with a shield and then use like a pseudo 6-link helmet, which is kind of rare at the moment. Or maybe something like Carcass Jack to increase the clear speed even more, because Carcass Jack got buffed. Oh, by the way, talking about buffs, before I forget, I need to mention that the last video I posted, I probably made a mistake posting it just a couple hours before the league start. Not many people saw that video, but I went over 20 builds during Delve League and how they're changing in this league. So if you're still not sure what build to play, definitely check that video. I reviewed each build and made recommendations which builds are actually playable and some of which may actually become meta. Also at the end of that video I made a special thanks to all the viewers and supporters, and it kind of feels bad that that message did not reach those viewers. So if you missed that video, at least check the end of the video. Anyway, back to this build. For now this build needs a lot of upgrades, but at the start at level 41 I bought Nycta's Lantern, which gives +2 levels to fire skills, flat fire damage to spells, equally to level 5 Immolate I think, and then fire penetration, which of course only works for hits and not ignite, and the rest of the items just as much life as I could get and just to cap my resistances. I had absolutely no problem dealing with any content so far, but then again I'm only doing up to tier 5 maps, but I also will be getting quite a lot more damage, so I'm pretty sure this should scale at least up to red tier maps, and that would only be on a 5-link. With a 6-link of course it would do much better, but I'm not really expecting to get that lucky and get 6-link. Now as for the passive skill tree, this is Elementalist, and I first decided to go for Beacon of Ruin and then lastly Paragon of Calamity. I haven't done Uberlab yet, but from Uberlab I would probably get Pendulum of Destruction. Now Beacon of Ruin allows me to guarantee at least 20% damage from shocks, and and at least 10% slow from chills. And I do have about 20% chance to shock. And all I need is a bit of flat lightning damage and flat cold damage to spells, which actually you can now craft on rings with new Veil mods, or just use Hypnotic Eye Jewel with some cold and lightning damage. And the rest of the passive skill tree, it follows a similar pattern, similar path to the Ignite builds, except I'm also getting brand nodes, not all of them, and I'm basically focusing going to the left side of the passive skill tree. I will have about 173% life, and I also be taking the minion nodes, the spiritual aid. Also, if mana is an issue, by the way, I'm not using clarity anymore. You can quite easily solve your mana issues by crafting one of the new Veil mods, which gives a hybrid flat mana and the percentage of damage taken gain as mana over 4 seconds. So if you need mana, just get hit. And that's about all for now. I will be pushing this build higher. I would love to get to Shaper, but it's probably unlikely that I will reach Shaper on this build in the next 2 or 3 days. Unless I can get some lucky drop and sell for quite a lot of currency and just buy Shaper's Guardians map. And I definitely would want to test it on the higher endgame content like Shaper's Guardians. But we'll see. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching and see you soon.